Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go!
All right, Caleb, Joseph, we get you on taking cuts to talk baseball, but I also like talking hockey now that I know you're a hockey guy. You saw the Getzlaff jersey over my shoulder. You guys don't live that far away from each other now in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, we're pretty close on the same street, actually. He's about 6, 7 minutes away from me. I'll tell you what, I've played golf with him multiple times. He's got some mitts on him. I'll tell you this, especially around the greens, he can really do it. Put some check and spin on the golf ball, makes it stop right next to the hole. He's got some really good game.
Who's better, baseball or hockey players of golf generally?
I would say baseball players are generally better overall. The hockey players can generate a ton of speed. They know exactly how to kind of torque that shaft and create the speed. Problem is they don't know where the club face is, so it's always going all over the place. Whereas I think baseball players have a little bit better idea of direction, maybe not as much speed as some of the hockey players actually can generate.
So in general, who's got better hand-eye coordination, baseball players or hockey players?
You know, so is it really hand-eye coordination if you don't even have to look at the puck when you're handling it? You know, is that even a thing? I mean, is that just like extreme talent? I mean, I couldn't hit a baseball if I literally wasn't watching it. So, I mean, what they're able to do with the stick and puck without even looking at it is hand-eye times 10 to me. I think hockey players are probably the most athletic people on the planet. I know people are going to roll their eyes and probably say, no way that you're telling me that hockey players are more athletic than NFL guys or NBA guys. But I truly think what it takes to compete at that level, it takes so much athleticism. I think they're number one.
Well, you know, I think it's indisputable now. Like, I'm a football guy. I respect baseball players. Hockey's it probably goes it goes football, hockey, baseball for me in terms of my favorite sports. But I'll tell you what, man, I don't think you can dispute. Oh, hold on a second here. My alarm's going off. I don't think you can dispute the passion they play with. Just look at this quote unquote all-star situation they had. Like, that was unbelievable, that Four Nations Cup.
It was unbelievable. It was outstanding. It had me on the edge of my seat. I was waiting 30 minutes before puck drop, and I haven't done that in years. The most anticipated hockey games that I've been really a part of or wanting to be a part of since 2017 when the Nashville Predators were in the Stanley Cup final. I mean, I have not been this excited to watch hockey in a long time. And I love hockey, and I watch every single Preds game start to finish. But this was just another level. I think the format was fantastic. I think PK Subban crushed it on the post-game show when he said, you know, credit to the players for making this what it was. And it's so true. The players went out there and they cared a lot about it. They showed their natural, I think, enthusiasm for their country, for their sport. And that's why the fans got into it. The players showed up and they were just kind of going through the motions a little bit. It wouldn't have had as much kind of punch behind it. But when they showed up with that much passion and that much enthusiasm, it just drew everybody in. And I think it's a great format. I can't wait for it already next year.
So I tell you what, it was great that, or ironic that McDavid was the guy that got the game-winning goal, because he's basically the guy, the main voice that forced this international competition.
Amazing, too. And amazing that Matthews was out of position and left Connor McDavid, you know, right there for the Canadian team. And that's kind of what we've heard with the, you know, Maple Leafs was they got offense, but can they do it on defense? Can they? And then, of course, it's Matthews that leaves McDavid wide open there in the slot. But, yeah, McDavid, he obviously can push some agendas. And I'm really glad that he thought this was worthy of it because, man, what people that don't even watch hockey that have come to me and said, hey, are you watching this Four Nations? I mean, my brother-in-law, who doesn't really care about hockey, he texted me, you got the game on? This is awesome. And I think everybody has stories like that where they have non-hockey enthusiasts that got very motivated to watch that series.
And Caleb, 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of an all-star game.
It was incredible. I mean, they did it. They packed every bit of entertainment value into it. I mean, it was just it had everything. It'll be hard to top, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
They fought, they checked, they back checked, they pressured, like overtime went. I mean, it was just everything that you could imagine. If you were going to write a script, they nailed it.
You know who didn't nail it? The Toronto Blue Jays with this Vladdy Guerrero Jr. thing. And listen, I know you're an analyst, so I'm not going to get you to wait. I'm going to ask you questions. You answer how you want. But to me, don't they have to get rid of him soon? Because you what are you going to be left with if you hold on to the guy? Because you're not. Let's be honest. You're probably not going to keep him in free agency after this season.
Yeah, this is a huge conundrum, and I will tell you, I think this is one of the most interesting cases free agency wise I've seen in a really long time. I just think he's such a unique case in that he has superstar ability. He has that kind of Soto, Judge, Otani type in there. We've seen it where he could go off and be of close to their caliber, but we've also seen just average seasons from Vladdy Guerrero Jr. And so actually picking his value is incredibly difficult to try and figure out, are you really a $500, $600 million player, or are you kind of more in that 250? Blue Jays have had a hard time trying to figure this out. And it's been apparent that they were not sure 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they finally stuck to their evaluation here this past week, and they decided not to sign Vladdy Guerrero Jr. They would not move off of their evaluation. And so when you finally get to that position now, how do you pivot? Which is your question. I think the Yankees kind of went through this same situation with Judge. Couldn't come to an agreement. They played it out. The logical answer, Michael, is to trade him right now where you could get your highest value. You're not going to get as much value for Vladdy Guerrero Jr. at the trade deadline. If you're a non-contender for the Toronto Blue Jays, you're not going to get a lot for him. If you trade him for where the other team has an entire season,
right?
Now you're talking about being able to pull a pretty decent type of package back for him. If you wait at the very end of the season, you hold on to Vladdy Guerrero Jr., you do not re-sign him. Some other team signs him. Now you're talking about a compensation pick in the draft. The biggest package is going to be right now, but I just don't think there's any way the Toronto Blue Jays could actually do it and save a fan base.
Well, and so that's. I was looking at the list. I'm not a baseball expert. I defer to you, but I was looking at it. If you put, and you kind of alluded to it, if you put Vladdy Guerrero in a basket with all the kind of like players, like you were saying, Soto and those kind of guys, they're already locked up to long-term deals, or there's no way you could trade for them. But he's in that category, but he isn't in that category, if you know what I mean. That's how could you screw this up if you're the Blue Jays? And then you got Bo Bichette, who said he wants to play multiple years with Vladdy Guerrero. Now, that could just be talk, but what happens with Bo Bichette? Like, you're on the verge of really messing this thing up bad.
Yep, they're at a point now. It's amazing how quickly time goes. It seems like yesterday that Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette, and even mentioned Kevin Biggio, were kind of coming up, the trio. Mm-hmm. And man, these guys they're gonna be a part of a dynasty. They're gonna be kind of the linchpins in the lineup. And now we're already talking about free agency. It always is a good reminder that the windows are so small in sports. They seem like they're gonna take forever, and they do sometimes if you lock these players up like you just alluded to. I know they've tried with Bo Bichette to get a little bit longer of a contract. Of course, he did sign that extension that kind of bought him out of his arbitration years, but it was always Vladdy. The question mark was always Vladdy, especially after 2021. People started kind of mentioning you got to lock him up, and I will say with Vladdy, it is the most interesting case because he's so hard for me to make a firm evaluation. He's just so tough. From a fan's perspective, as I'm talking as a fan, I want him to be a Toronto Blue Jay because he wants to be a Toronto Blue Jay, and he is the face of the franchise. How many people do you know that really don't like Vladdy? There's not that many. They love him. He is the offense. Sign him, give him whatever he wants, make him a Blue Jay for life. I totally get that. And half of me says do that because your fans want it. And half of me says, well, that contract is not going to age well. It might hamstring you in the future of what you can actually get and not get. If you're trying to be competitive, you're now boxed into a corner. Is he really worth the $40 million? Will he keep pushing to be the best player he can, or will he kind of lay off the gas pedal? There is a lot going on. I wouldn't say you have those types of concerns with an Aaron Judge or a Juan Soto just because of their track record, how consistent it's been. But because Vladdy has had some pretty violent heartbeat type seasons, it is tough to really figure out which way you want to go.
That's a very good point, actually. That is a good point, and a valid one. So do you think it's salvageable? Like, do you think, I kind of already have written it off. Do you think at the end of the year, because he does like Toronto and he is the face of a team, like you even look at like, I'm trying to draw a comparison. You look at Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard left the Raptors after leading them to the championship. He was Canadian basketball, even though he was an American. Like, he was the guy, and it's never been the same since. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener. Sometimes if I'm in Vladdy's camp, I'm saying, listen, you're the face of a franchise. Nobody dislikes you here. You are Mr. Baseball in Canada if you want to be. Like, sometimes these agents got to get in these guys' heads that way too, I believe.
Yeah, and I can tell you it is an adjustment, and it's a change going to a different organization, especially when you've been with one for so long, which Vladdy has. He's been nothing but a Blue Jay, and he is comfortable here. And I think that's another point that you just said that is really a great point is he wants to be in Toronto. How many times have we talked about, well, can you get free agents to Toronto? I mean, this guy's coming out there saying, hey, I want to be a Blue Jay. How do you not lock that guy up? That's just another twist to kind of the complexity of this free agency. But I don't think it's fractured. I did get a couple messages from some buddies that showed me that he had liked some Instagram post of him photoshopped in a Yankees uniform. And so they're like, oh, here we go. The very subtle kind of gamesmanship, I think, has kind of begun. But that's fine. I mean, who cares? Like, they wouldn't meet your price. Just because you're on a diet doesn't mean you can't look at the menu, right? I mean, why wouldn't he can look at the menu? Go ahead. Like, but I wouldn't say the relationship is fractured by any means. He is in a position of the most leverage, and you rarely get leverage in baseball, Michael. Your first 3 years, you have none. The next 3 years of your first major league contract in arbitration, you have a little bit, and then you finally get to free agency where you feel like for the first time in your baseball career, you have leverage. He's enjoying the leverage, and have at it. I would not be surprised if they somehow were able to figure this out, because I think Vladdy truly, really does enjoy his time in Toronto. It's not one of those say you love to be there just because it raises the price and you have no intention of ever going back, because that's probably what happens about 70% of the time. They say they want to come back and they have no intention. But I truly believe Vladdy Guerrero Jr. loves being in Toronto and would love for that to be the place where he finishes his career.
Hey, we both got to get to church, so I'm not going to leave you hanging too much longer on your couch here talking to me. But I got to ask you, they've come up with the automated balls and strikes here, spring training. I think 60% of the games. Just let's revisit that. Your thoughts. I haven't watched the spring training game yet to see how it's going, but just your thoughts on the automated system. I'm for less, not more, but I guess I'm in the minority.
Yeah, well, I like the idea that it is confined in that they're only going to have, in my understanding, 3 challenges, and if you win the challenge, you just retain the challenge, much like these other sports. It's very simple. But the hitter, the pitcher, or the catcher are the only ones that can call it. I've seen a couple clips where they have already instituted this and tried it, and so far what I've seen is players are like 2-0, winning 2-0. Pete Alonso had one, I think, yesterday. I mean, the box, I mean, it is like there is not even a breath of room between the last seam and the corner of the box where where the pitch actually came in, but he was correct. Again, it's kind of a slippery slope. I enjoy the fact that you can say that you think that was a ball instead of just telling an umpire and him saying, go bleep yourself. It's still a strike. I like the fact that you can challenge, but this is a slippery slope, Michael. what starts off as 3 challenges is, in my opinion, going to just lead right into every single pitch. And then the aesthetics of the game is going to change quite a bit because, the catcher's not going to really want to work really hard to frame the ball. It's just gonna look different. Again, I like it, but I hate it knowing what is probably coming down the line, that this won't just be a challenge system. It could potentially be every single pitch from here on out. And I've talked to a number of MLB umpires, and they do not want this. They're good with they're okay with the challenge system, but they want to call balls and strikes. They want to do that more than anything. And so it's interesting.
And there's 3 things there to wrap up. The talent that the umpires have, because most of the time they're right, which is crazy. When you think of the different speeds of pitches and variations of pitches, they're more times than not right. How about Pete Alonso in the box? And he knows by that minuscule of that he's right. Like, to even judge that, and then the art of framing a pitch for a catcher. Like that 3 underrated talents right there.
No question. And it is unreal how those umpires get it correct, like you just said, that they more times than not. And I think it will show appreciation to those umpires, because you're going to see that if you have the ability to challenge and you don't, then it might be just show when you're telling them, oh, that's outside, right? Now you get to see who kind of the real good players are that can really determine that ball strike. You get to see it. You're going to see it from here on out. Like, I know Pete Alonso has a good eye at the plate. I've been back there trying to get him out. I've heard him whisper and know that's outside, and he's correct. We're going to see Juan Soto, who probably has the best eye in baseball. We're going to see him challenge, and I mean, goodness, he might walk an extra 25 times because he's not that 3-0 pitch that's this far off. He's just going to say, no, take a look at that, and it's going to be challenged. And I'm partial. I'm biased with the framing aspect. I think aesthetically it just brings the game together. I think that's one of the, now at times it has gotten a little bit ridiculous with some of these guys pulling pitches 8 feet. I think that's silly, but the art of a 2-strike pitch on the outer half where the catcher just frames it, and then you see the umpire, like it's aesthetically pleasing to me, versus someone who just catches the ball and like waits for a computer to tell it if it was a strike or not. I love the flow of that a pitcher releases the ball and the catcher just kind of massages it, and the hitter kind of looks back like that was pretty close, and then the umpire's ringing him up. It has a flow to it that I think everybody loves.
Well, and then we're going to get rid of eventually, what are we going to do? Get rid of the Earl Weaver or the Lou Piniella and the guys coming out of the dugout to fight with a computer? Come on. No, we can't have that.
No question. I honestly think some of the challenging systems has taken a little bit away from the entertainment value, which is the art and like throwing guys out. And I've asked umpires, them, hey, do you like having those types, or do you not like having it? Wondering. And I would say 85% of them are like, oh yeah, part of the job. They say, oh, it's just part of the job. But what they really mean is, I love it. I watched one last night. I mean, old school one. It's on the Twitter or whatever. And Hawk Harrelson was the color guy pretty much saying it. And he was getting after it, watching these two. I mean, it was like watching a play. The guy strolls out there, the old guy for the White Sox, and he's like, why are you doing it? And they looks really calm, and they're kind of going into it. And then, they started getting a little bit more heated and a little bit more heated. And then before you know it, and they're jawing at each other like 2 woodpeckers. And it was an art. And they went back and forth, and they used certain hand motions. And it was an art form. I loved it. I mean, I think people love that. It's almost like a mid-game or mid-inning show. They get to just see a cool show. And
I love it.
Yeah, you revert back to all robots and all this. Yeah, I mean, you're going to see guys just flicking off like, the sky, old man yelling at clouds, right? Like whatever that cartoon was, Simpsons,
Yep. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, man, thanks for your time, man. Best of luck the rest of the week, and we'll talk soon, okay?
All right, you got it, Ballsy. See you.
All right, time for kicking it with John Ryan. Although maybe I should say it's bunting it with John Ryan. You're in Arizona watching some spring league baseball, cactus league. Just talk to me about that. That's a love of yours, baseball.
Yeah, actually, back in about '08, I bought a condo here just to be able to come here during March and watch baseball. So I've been coming for about 17 years now. My wife will join me in a couple weeks here, but I'll probably catch. Today was the first game. I'll probably catch about 20 games in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, Cubs and Dodgers.
Cubs and Dodgers today. Yeah, they had usually this early on because it was kind of opening day today. This early on, they're not playing many players, but I saw Mookie Betts was in there for 2 or 3 at bats, and a couple actual. Chad Taylor was in there. A couple actual players were in the lineup. There wasn't too many number 72s and 65s out there. There's some numbers under 20.
That's kind of like receiver numbers. Like Ben Cahoon, when he went to camp with the Alouettes, he told me he thought he had no chance of making it because he had like it was 72 or 76 or something like that. He's like, I'm never making this team.
Yeah, oh yeah. It used to be all if you in the camp, even like back in '06 when my first NFL camp, if a receiver didn't get a number in the 80s, they had no shot. It's different now how receivers have 19 and under, but it was like everyone was in the 80s. If you weren't in the 80s, you were on the outside looking in.
How do you feel about that with receivers getting those like lower numbers like that?
I don't like it. Yeah, I'm kind of a traditional guy. Now in the CFL, you have punters and kickers wearing NFL now, even punters and kickers went to different numbers in the 40s and the 70s. I hate it. I like the traditional thing where all the old rules. If you catch a ball from center, you have to be under 19.
Yeah.
Receivers were in the 80s. It was just, it was a different time. But
I love that. Yeah, no, I agree, man.
You see linebackers were in single digits now. It's crazy.
I hate it. Yeah, D lineman that was that Sweat number 19 rushing the Kansas City Chiefs and they didn't blitz once, but you're looking at 19 on the line of scrimmage, or Willie Jefferson number 5 in the CFL.
It makes it difficult for a quarterback to find guys out there. Back in the day, you find right away who's your linebacker, who's your DBs, and who's your D line. And now it's harder to find who's who when you're trying to line up there. So I know Tom Brady, little Timmy Brady, was complaining about it a few years ago, but it's a real thing.
Yeah, he complains about a lot. So what's it like? What's the weather like there? Is it still comfortable to sit out and watch some grapefruit Cactus League baseball?
It's really comfortable outside right now. It's about 25 outside. I just got to my condo. I haven't been here for about 3 months, and the air conditioning is not working, so it's real uncomfortable in here. So outside it's 75. Inside here it's about 80 for some reason, and it's a real uncomfortable sleep last night. It will be all weekend until Monday morning until I come get this fixed. But that's first world problems, as they say, right?
Yeah, I say this on behalf of every one of your family members back here and all your friends, and I'm one of them. Fuck you. We literally just today as we talk, it's like +2. Like I'm on the car lot, Ryan, and if my fingers aren't falling off, I gotta boost every second car. It's -48. It's been that way for like a month, dude.
My mom was in LA last week, and it was like 65. So 17, 18 degrees. Yeah, I'm sorry the weather's such crap for you, Mom. And we looked, it was like -40 back there where you guys are. So I was like, 100-degree difference. She was not complaining at all.
Yeah. Hey, so what do you like about going to, other than your love of baseball, but is there one thing you like about I call it grapefruit, Cactus League. It's Cactus League in Arizona, grapefruit over there in Florida. What do you like about preseason baseball?
I love it because, first of all, it's just the first baseball of the year. So, you kind of chomping at the bit to go back and just watch baseball again. So it's the first baseball of the year. It's kind of a more intimate setting. The Cubs Stadium is the biggest stadium. It's like 16,000, but most of them are around 10,000, 8,000 seats. So you get kind of like you're watching big league players in a minor league park for most part. Then you get to the later innings, you kind of see some of these minor league guys that, are trying to fight their way up. There's AA and single A guys. And I love the whole aspect of all of it. I like watching the younger guys later on in the games. I like it that I'm sitting in a 10,000 seat stadium and I'm watching Mookie Betts today. I saw Mookie Betts take 2 or 3 at bats. So that's just, something you don't get to do very often other than in spring training.
Who's your favorite ball player to watch right now?
I still love Mike Trout. I love the guy. Watching Ellie De La Cruz is probably one of the most exciting players to watch right now, playing out in Cincinnati. But Mike Trout is just, he's been it's been unfortunate the injuries over the last 4 or 5 years. It's just like he can't play more than 70 or 80 games in a year. Because I still think he has something left in him. I think he can still put together an MVP type year, even at whatever it is. Not that old, actually, 31 or 32. But got to stay healthy. Got to stay on the field to put up those numbers.
Hey, speaking of 31-32, just popped into my head. What do you think of the Riders signing of Tavon Campbell? That would be that's going to be a decent signing if he still has the Jets like he had in the NFL.
Yeah, I love the signing. You know, for him to come back to the CFL after he's probably been gone for 5 or 6 years, Mike.
Yeah.
For him to come back to Saskatchewan, I think that's a pretty cool story myself, and I think I hope he still has some Jets left, and I think he probably does.
Yeah, and he'll kind of be like a Swiss Army knife there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could use him anywhere. They could use him at the half. They could use him at safety if they wanted to, and corner. I'm interested. He couldn't really answer me because maybe he's forgotten. I'm interested. What would be harder, being a defensive back in the CFL or the NFL? Two different games.
Oh man, I mean, the NFL, you're going against the greatest athletes in the world. In the CFL, you're on a freaking island out there. Yeah. It used to be even worse before they narrowed those hash marks. But if you're on the wide side, the play side, I mean, you're on a freaking island out there with that guy. It's crazy. So, you know, there's so much field, and that movement. You know, if you're trying to guard one of those inside receivers and they hit the line going 100%, that's tough. It's really tough.
That is tough. Your movie came out for the Pickles.
Yes.
I just started to watch it. You sent me the link. I appreciate it. I couldn't, because of work, watch it live. Did it get good reviews?
Got great reviews. Everyone said it was good. They was impressed with it. You know, it was a little bit story about how we started it. Our wacky, crazy fans, our crazy promotions, but also they followed along our team kind of making a run for the playoffs last year as well. So it kind of tied all that in together, and they did a really good job of it, and I'm proud of it.
So you were the top of your profession, won a Super Bowl. So you're a professional athlete. You know what it's like to do that. But if you could be a professional athlete in another sport, what would it be?
Oh man!
And what would you play? And what would you play?
It has to be baseball.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love it now so much. I would have said before, I would have said lacrosse, but then I would have been homeless. But you know, baseball. You know, if you think they don't get paid well in the CFL, look at one of those NLL checks. You wouldn't have a
condo. You wouldn't have a condo in Arizona. I'm telling you that right now, in a house in LA, and be with an actress wife.
No, I'd be living in the bushes over there probably. But I love baseball, and you know, I think baseball. The travel and all that, you know, would kind of be unappealing in your 30s. I think in your 20s it'd be a lot of fun. You know, I was kind of almost jealous of the travel in the baseball compared to football when I was younger. And then when I got older, I was like, man, I don't know how they do it. Going on these, you know, going away for 15, 20 days a month is just crazy. I don't know how they can possibly do that. So that part would suck. But you know, I would love to be a baseball player,
especially dudes with families, right?
Oh, I mean, they're gone all the time. It's rough.
All the time. Yeah. So would you be, what position would you play if you were playing baseball? If you could, all things being equal, you had the talent to do anything, what would it be?
Well, Ballsy, people might laugh, but you're as my witness. I used to be pretty fast.
Yes, you were.
So
fast.
I think I'd be a center fielder. I think I could steal a few bases and track down a few balls.
Jackson
for average.
Well, you're one of the kickers that you could actually say is an athlete. Now, I'm not trying to disparage kickers, but like, you are muscled up, you are fast, you were a receiver, lacrosse player, so you definitely were an athlete. But I think we joke about that. But these kickers are big time athletes too when you think about it.
They are when you think about it. You know, you like to give them a hard time. It was always the punters versus kickers, who's a better athlete, because especially in the NFL. All the punters like 6'5", 220.
Yeah.
You know, big. They're big freaking guys, and all the kickers are still like 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah.
They're not big, huge guys. They're more soccer style bodies. Yeah. So that was always the argument: who was a better athlete? And I mean, punters are winning a fight, but
hey, so I'm not going to get political again, but I'm going to say it's our fucking sport. Stay off our lawn. Canada wins. Wasn't that great? And I'm going to tell you right now, this is the honest to God truth. You phoned my son, you phoned some friends at the car lot. I called it. So after I said Canada will lose the first game and McDavid will score in a loss. I put money on it. I put money on it and won. I told my son Canada will beat Finland 5-2. It was 5-3. And I said Canada will win And I said this after Canada lost the first game. This before the first game, I said this is exactly what was going to happen. Canada will lose, McDavid will score. Then Canada will beat Finland 5-2. It was 5-3. And I said McDavid would score the winner in overtime 3-2 over the USA. I should buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, you should. At least go to a sports bet somewhere. But just a phenomenal, phenomenal tournament. And I think it was the biggest tournament in the history for hockey in the USA. I remember I was talking to guys 10 days ago, whatever it was, saying like, you got to watch this, All-Star break tournament. And they're like, I haven't heard anything about it. I don't know what that is. Literally. And then 10 days later, they're gripping their couch, watching the TV, cheering for USA. And that was, I don't know if they can even do the ratings because there's so much streaming stuff right now, but it had been one of the highest rated hockey games in the history of the US, because people were very into it.
14.4 million people watching in Canada on Sportsnet. Wow. So you can, and here's the thing. The NBA is a lame product right now. It's so lame. And if you remember back in 1990, it would have been 1994-ish. The Rangers were hot. They were winning the Stanley Cup and in that 54-year drought, and the NHL was about to overtake the NBA. In fact, Sports Illustrated did an article about that. And then Bettman became the commissioner and everything went down. And the NHL's never been able to come back, but kudos to Bettman and the guys. That's the best all-star. I wasn't a big fan of it at the start because I don't think it was a true best on best because Russia and Czechia weren't there. Yeah. But for the teams that played, they played their asses off. That was great.
I was skeptical at first too because a 4-team tournament over 9 days. I didn't really know what to think about it, but it was phenomenal hockey. Well, I think we were absolutely spoiled for those 9 days because every game was, I thought, incredible. The biggest loser in this whole entire thing, the people that come out with egg on their face and look ridiculous, is the NBA. I turn on the NBA and I'm watching a skills contest, watching a guy do a bounce pass through a hoop, and then switch over and see 3 Canadians against 3 Americans punching each other in the face, fighting the hell off for their country.
In 9 seconds.
How stupid do you look right now? The boringest all-star game ever. The only thing they have going for them is a dunk contest, and it's worn out now. They just have nothing. They looked stupid.
I like what the NFL's done. If you're like, let's not have a fake football game. Let's go flag if we're gonna do some sort of Pro Bowl type thing. Like, I don't like it, but I like it in comparison. Should the CFL have some sort of all-star festivity type deal?
I would love to see it. I know they did way back in the day in the 50s. I think they did.
Oh, the last one was in '87, dude.
Was it really that?
Really? Yeah, the Eskimos were the Grey Cup champs, and they played a team of CFL All-Stars in a real tackle football game at Commonwealth Stadium. You can YouTube it. It was an actual football game. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be cool, but yeah, I know that right now, just financially, everything seems to be so expensive to get something like that together. I would love to see something. I don't know what it would look like, but I think it'd be pretty cool.
We're coming up on the CFL draft, John Ryan.
Yes.
And we do not have a commissioner. Are we still going to have Randy Ambrosie, a.k.a. Justin Trudeau, who's the prime minister but doesn't want to leave? Are we still going to have Randy Ambrosie standing, reading the names? Like, shouldn't we have either they have no candidates or this collection of owners keeps the best secret? Because I haven't heard one name, not one name. Nobody's even rumored a name.
I mean, you followed a lot closer than me, but I'm kind of poking around too, and I've not heard one single name. I mean, there's some guys that come up in my head, but I don't know if they want it or if there's anyone else talking about them. But it blows my mind. It's just a bad look not to have anyone. You don't necessarily have to have them ready, but you should be pretty quick into the interview process the second Randy said he's gone.
Yeah, and
I'm talking next day.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get some names out there for sure. Hey, back to the WNBA or the NBA All-Star Game. I want to get your thoughts on this. So Caitlin Clark had a chance to go to the NBA All-Star Game and do kind of I guess it was a 3-point competition with the guys and against Steph Curry, and she turned it down. I don't like that. I think she should have gone. The WNBA is propped up by the NBA. Okay? They're paying their bills. If the NBA asks you to do something, you say, how high am I going to jump? That's my opinion, but I want your opinion on that.
I mean, for me, just as a competitor, I want to show that I'm better than the NBA guys myself. Yeah. I mean, like, for me, it'd be hard to turn down. I know that the women are playing in a different league right now, other than the NBA in the summer. I'm not real familiar with it. They used to all go to Russia now because of the whole Brittany Griner thing. I think they're shying away from that. But yeah, I mean, for me, I always wanted to compete against people that thought they were better than me, or that people thought that they were better than me. And I wouldn't have passed it up.
No, I wouldn't.
I can't speak for her, but I wouldn't have.
No, I wouldn't have passed it up at all. And listen, she's a phenomenal player. The WNBA, I mean, she's the reason why it's must watch. But like I think I watched 10 minutes of the NBA, and that was only to see Luka Doncic's debut with the Lakers.
You know what? The WNBA is so much better than it was 20 years ago. I remember I used to go in Seattle 20 years ago, and it was still good and everything. But now, because the NBA is so freaking annoying, with guys like Leonard are taking 20 games off for to rest their knees or whatever, workload management. Another thing about the NHL, guys punching each other's face in 82 games, then you see a guy having 21 games off for load management. Are you kidding me? NBA, I think they play around 40, 48 games. I'm not 100% sure, but about half the NBA games, which makes every game way more competitive. You can play you see Caitlin Clark play. They played a 40-minute game. She's playing like 35 minutes a night. It's none of this crap where you come out for the third quarter and LeBron James sits on the bench 8 minutes until the game gets close again, then he goes back out. There's none of that crap.
Yeah.
When you're in game number 50 of an NBA season and I'm watching it on a Tuesday night, I'm like, there's not one guy in the court that cares.
No.
Why do I give a fuck if you don't?
Yes.
And you see, these women are playing way harder. They're playing every game like it's the final, and it's just way more fun to watch. They're putting out a better quality right now.
Baseball players get a bad rap for not they're not going out there every day. Some people say that, but actually when you think about it, 162 games, like Jackson Merrill of the Padres, I think of him. I think he played in almost every game for the Padres, if not all of them this year. Think about that.
I used to say the same thing. I'm like, you burst on the ball. As a right fielder, you might take 5 bursts a game to catch a ball. A couple will hit at you, and then you step in the batter's box 4 times. But when I got closer to the game and now owning a team, to do it every single day, 6 days a week, it's a lot on your body. It just is. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's hard on your body. It's not playing in the NFL, but that's why the NFL plays once a week. It's not like the NHL, but 162 games. I mean, 162 games of marbles, your fingers wear out. It's a lot to put on your body.
Hey, so in this day and age, it's a lot tougher. Well, you were still playing in the day and age of social media. You were very active on social media, so you're still in that realm. But when you played, and now more than ever, it's tougher to be an athlete. You can't leave it at the park because we're just human. Maybe you were able to block it out, but a lot of guys say, I don't look at that stuff. I don't listen to that stuff. I call BS. They do go down the rabbit hole if they're young people. How does it feel as an athlete when, like Jordan Binnington, he's getting questioned? Should he be the goalie? Canada doesn't have very good goaltending. After the loss to the Americans, should he start against Finland? And I'll tell you what, he should have been the player of the game.
I 100% agree.
Like
he stole the game in overtime.
That save he made is going to go down as one of the... Now, listen, I'm not comparing this to the 72 Summit Series or the 87 Canada Cup or even any of the Olympics Canada
2010
won.
Olympics.
Yeah, but that was as good a hockey game as the 2010 Olympic gold medal game. That was a great hockey game, and that goes down as one of the greatest saves in Canadian history.
For sure, and I think that as an athlete, it kind of fuels your fire when you know that someone's against you, someone's talking crap about you, someone doesn't believe in you, and it's so nice to turn around and kind of stick your finger in their chest after and be like, look at what I just did. Bennington just did it to an entire country.
Yeah.
A country that he was playing his ass off for, he just turned around and he just basically won you the gold medal, said, look what I just did, and now he's a freaking Canadian hero when people were calling for his head against Finland. They didn't want him to start, so I was happy for him and just phenomenal performance.
And that's the unique thing about this game. Like in an all-star game with the NBA, guys from different teams, but you're not playing that hard. Major League Baseball, there's no real physical interaction unless you bump somebody in the base paths. There's no bench clearing brawls. These guys play with each other during the regular season, like Sam Bennett against Matthew Tkachuk or those kind of guys. But you come together in a locker room representing your country. It's just an interesting dynamic there.
Yeah, and that's what made it so great. It wasn't that, a bunch of brother-in-law passes and, 16 to 15 goals in like the All-Star game. It was real hockey, like some of the best hockey I've seen. And I think, what you see, especially, I don't know if it's a hockey thing, But when guys play for their country, they go that extra mile. They're not messing around. They don't care. There's no longer club teammates. We don't play on the Boston Bruins anymore. We play on Team Canada now, and it was just fun to watch. I loved every second of it.
And I like to look at things and try to the symbolism of them. And when Crosby was still kind of like the last. Probably, let's say 3 years ago, when they'd asked Crosby about McDavid, he never really had a comment, right? Because there's that competitiveness. But I think Crosby realizes that, like, he obviously is on the way out.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really great what he said after the game, high praise for McDavid, and that hug they had together at the end when they were talking. I don't know if you saw that. I thought that was kind of almost like a symbolic passing of the torch.
100%. They probably wouldn't agree with that. They're going right back to being competitors, and I think that Connor McDavid's been good for so long already, but I felt like it was kind of a passing of a torch. Sydney's 37 now, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Hasn't played for Canada for a while, but at one point had won 26 consecutive games playing for Canada. Like, I mean, he was kind of Captain Canada, and kind of him having such a great tournament as well. He wasn't, he didn't have 2 or 3 points. He was crushing the games. He played really well, and then McDavid scoring the winner. It really it felt like the passing of the Canadian torch.
Yeah, it sure did. And you know what? What adds to it is everything going on in the world. Like, that was a huge win, because you feel like, okay, you're trying to, they're not going to, but you're talking about taking over our country. You're talking about giving us tariffs, and now you're taking our game. And it's like, no, this is our fucking game.
And Ballsy, I don't think you were alive. I wasn't alive. I was, I don't think you were alive either. But if that's why it felt like all the stories from 72, 72 was just an 8-game exhibition series, 4 games in Canada, 4 games in Russia or Czech Republic, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't a tournament at all. It was just an exhibition series. But because of the way the countries hated each other, and they were the hockey, all that stuff, that's how this felt like too. Is that there was politics involved. There was booing each other's national anthems, which I've never seen in my entire life for Canada, U.S. All this other stuff behind the scenes, like that was simmering for the last years or whatever. It all exploded into this hockey game, and the 2 hockey games, really, I loved it.
Do you really think, without getting into the political side of things, do you really think that Americans, Canadians don't like each other? Like, do you really think that there's that? Like, because we've been friends for so long. We're the exact same. Honestly, we're the exact same country in a lot of respects.
Sure. I mean, the only thing that I've ever heard of, like, Canadians hating Americans or Americans hating Canadians is like a joke, go take your sled dog to school and drink maple syrup, and we'll go do whatever,
and Budweiser and shoot guns.
Yeah, exactly. There's never been never really any reason to hate each other. I think there's been, as you said, don't get into it.
It's such a surreal moment, because we got Canadians booing Americans and vice versa, and Russia and the U.S. getting together. It's like, what kind of world am I living in?
Well, where are we right now? The Twilight Zone. Yeah, my God.
Man, I'll let you go to dinner with your family. Thanks for your time, man. Enjoy Cactus League action, okay? And
absolutely, buddy.
I'm going to watch the rest of this. Pickles.
Please do.